cerebellum. Here it is. It's really pretty easy for people to identify it. It doesn't have a whole lot of long names for things, mostly. It is posterior to the medulla oblongata and the pons. It's like right below, like here's the occipital lobe. It's right below the occipital lobe. It would be separated from the cerebrum by what's called the transverse fissure, and that's where the tentorium cerebelli actually goes in. That dural septum, that's called the tentorium cerebelli. In between the two halves, if it were intact, the falx cerebelli would go in between the two halves of the cerebellum, and then the tentorium cerebelli would go on top. So there are two cerebellar hemispheres, right and left, just like there were two cerebral hemispheres. If you do a cross-section of the cerebellum, you can see gray matter on the outside and white matter on the inside, like the cerebrum, but a totally different pattern. The pattern of white matter on the inside of the cerebellum is called the arbor vitae of the cerebellum, because somebody thought it looked like a tree and they thought the cerebellum was directly related to life-sustaining functionality, and it isn't as much as other things that are down there. So they called it the arbor vitae, which means tree of life. And then this pattern that somebody thought looked like an evergreen tree, kind of looks like hamburger to me. This pattern of the folding of the gray matter is called folia. So what does this do? The cerebellum is more involved in maintaining your posture and your equilibrium and smoothing and coordinating your body movements. So when you first learn to ride a bike, you're using primarily your cerebral cortex because you're really not used to how to do the pattern. But then after you have done the pattern enough, you actually pass it off. After you've initiated riding a bike, your cerebellum knows left foot, right foot, how you do that very smoothly. So once you initiate the pattern by voluntarily deciding to do it, you pass it off to your cerebellum so that you can free up your cerebrum for other things. So it's where what we call your muscle memory is. It's in the cerebellum. And after you get really, really good at doing something by practicing it over and over again, the cerebellum is actually better at doing it than your cerebrum is. So if you've learned a physical activity, like, I don't know, you're playing tennis or you're pitching a ball or you're playing piano, if you think about it too much after you've practiced it, no, not initially, that you're good at doing this. If you think about it too much, it will not go as smoothly as if once you initiate it, you kind of just pass it off to your cerebellum. It also is responsible for maintaining your posture and equilibrium. And the fourth ventricle is right there anterior to the cerebellum. So you should be able to label a whole bunch of stuff on here right now. Okay, now the cranial nerves. The cranial nerves, we always teach with the brain. They are not part of the brain, but they're attached to the brain because the central nervous system is just brain and spinal cord. So here's the deal with the cranial nerves. All the way back when I first introduced the nervous system, I told you that basically everything came to the central nervous system to be integrated, and all motor commands came from the central nervous system. Well, there are on the brain 12 places that you can enter and leave the brain, and these are called cranial nerves. And mostly what they do is head stuff, not exclusively. There is one that wanders all the way down and does heart stuff, and they call that the vagus nerve because vagrant, like wanderer. So they are directly connected to the brain. And they do sensory and motor information mostly to and from the head. And they are numbered Roman numerals 1 through 12, and there are 12 pairs, okay? So you do have to know the Roman numerals 1 through 12. So if you don't know 12 Roman numerals, you will by the time you're done. And then they are labeled either for what they do or the hole they go through or something like that. And some of them you'll kind of understand. For instance, the hypoglossal nerve goes through the hypoglossal canal, and it probably does something glossal, which is related to tongue. The optic nerve, the olfactory nerve, those kind of tell you what they do. What you are going to need to do is you are going to use your lab lists, and you only have to know the detail that's in your lab list. And you are going to know name, number, Whether it's a sensory nerve, meaning all the information through that nerve is going in, like the optic nerve. Whether it's a motor nerve, meaning all the information through that one is going out, like this one called the oculomotor nerve, or whether it's both, okay? Sensory, motor, or both, okay? And then name, number, and then you're going to have to know what hole it goes through, because that's why you learn those holes in the first place. And if I were you, I would label it all on this figure and label it enough times that you actually start understanding it. But there is an adorable video that was made in Texas, where I'm from. Let's see. And I'm going to play it for you. This is at the UT Southwestern Medical Center. You have to know cranial nerve function as part of, they learn it a little differently in nursing school and things like that, but this is kind of adorable, so I'm going to play it for you. Oh. My mouse is being a monster. Okay. Play. There we go.
Cranial one gave me a whiff.
What's that?
Excited sensory nerve guides my sniffs. Olfactory is the way. Second nerve helps me see right. Central peripheral side. Sensory nerve for my eyes. Optic nerve is the way. Pupils constricting. Third nerve, eyes are moving. Prevent silent drooping. Oculomotor nerve, baby. The trochlear nerve works the superior oblique. This is the fourth nerve. Hard to look down if it's weak. Trigeminal nerve works mastication. It's sensory and motor. Deals with face sensation. Abduces its sixth. Does eye abduction. Motor nerve for motion. Helps prevent double vision. Facial is seventh. Does facial expression. It's sensory and motor. 2/3 of taste sensation. Vestibulocochlear, eighth nerve body balancer. Used for the ear sound sensor. It's sensory and hair. Glossopharyngeal nerve. Senses taste from the 1/3. Back of the tongue, the ninth nerve. It helps us swallow hay. 10th nerve is vacant. Lets us speak and say stuff. Custard only if dysphagia. It's sensory and motor, baby. Accessory nerve is the 11th. So shrug your shoulders and test head resistance. The hypoglossal nerve is the 12th nerve. Deals with tongue movement. Mnemonic, let's get to it. Old Olympus tower tops of Finny German. We're Finny German. Beats and hops. Hey, some say marry money, but my brother says big brains matter more. More. Hey. Olympus tower, top of Finny German, Finny German, feeds and hops. Hey, some say marry money, but my brother says big brains matter more, more. Hey.
Okay, that's silly, but I love it. And I want to show you this as well. There are a whole bunch of mnemonics related to cranial nerves. On Old Olympus towering tops of Finn and German viewed some hops. There are also some not quite clean ones that are very easy to remember. In addition, this figure that I'm showing you right here kind of does functionality. Like number 1 is the olfactory nerve, number 2 is the optic nerves, and then you've got these that are going to the tongue, 8 right here, right? Acoustic nerve. So a whole bunch of different ways to remember them. Now, there's tons of detail that you could learn about them. What do you need to learn about them? You need to learn exactly what is in your lab lists, okay? All right, that is it for the brain. This takes a while to learn, which is why it's at the beginning of this unit and not the end. So you've got quite a bit of time to absorb it before your third exam, which is what this stuff is on.